Hello YouTube. If you're here, it's probably because you read the title and it should say something along the lines of, help, my dog growled at me. Probably that. I don't think I'm going to come up with anything better, and that's why you're here. So if your dog's growled at you or you want to prevent your dog from ever growling at you, this will be the video to watch. The very first thing that I want to tell you is that if your dog is growling at you, just take a big deep breath. It's totally fixable most of the time. So if your dog is 99% of the time the greatest dog ever, and there's been a growling incident that's really thrown you off, don't stress out too much about it. It's fixable. To start, I'm going to tell you, totally normal. This happens a lot. Essentially, growling is just communication. Dogs communicate with us in a lot of ways, and most people don't recognize that the dog is communicating. So the dog, if they finally get desperate, they're going to growl, and that's just communication. You should never punish a growl. Never punish a dog for growling. If you punish a dog for growling and then they're too afraid to growl the next time, you've given them only one other option, and that's biting. What can I do? If I'm trying to protect myself, I'm trying to tell someone, like, you're hurting me, or you're scaring me, or hey, that's mine, stop taking it. If you tell a dog he can't growl, you leave him no choice but to bite. You do not want to do that, and that is exactly why you'll hear people say, the dog bit out of nowhere. It just happened out of nowhere. Didn't growl, nothing, just bit. That happens a lot because the dog's been actually showing a lot of warning signs that you just don't notice because you're not a dog. And unless you've spent a lot of time staring at dogs and being absorbed with dogs, then you're not going to know these things. So that's my job, and I'm going to tell you all about them now. But I'm going to say that if your dog's growl at you, he's like telling you that he doesn't want you to do what you're doing. If you yell at him for it, then the next time he doesn't want you to do what you're doing, and he can't growl at you because he's afraid to, right? Because you've done something that made him afraid, then he's going to be like, well, this is the spot. I either really want them to stop and I'm going to have to bite, or I'm going to have to tolerate it, and that's eventually the dog's going to bite. So don't do that. As a dog trainer, growling over objects and resource guarding, or growling to say sort of like, leave me alone, is a really, really common thing. The most common time that this happens is about 8 or 9 months of age. Sometimes a little bit earlier and sometimes a little later. But the first time that this happens, it's usually around puberty. It's usually around the time that the dog is sort of like becoming a teenager. Every now and then I'll get a call or a text or something of somebody that has a dog that's a little older. That's maybe, a year and a half, 2, 3.5. And I've even had a dog that there was an issue when he was 5. So the older your dog is, the more it's strange if they're suddenly growling at you. So if you have an older dog and he's starting to growl, like the 5-year-old I was talking about, the dad was giving the dog a bath, and then after the bath, if he towel dried him, the dog would growl and snap. And no other time did it happen. And then the next time dad tried to give him a bath and he towel dry him, the dog growled and snapped. And then it happened a third time, and then I got a phone call. He wanted to know what was going on. And the dog was a nice dog. He was a really sweet dog otherwise. It was a back problem, and you might not think of those things. Like, that's my job. So my job is to think of that stuff for you and think, hey, when you're towel drying that dog, if he's got a ruptured disc, man, that's going to hurt, right? But they don't always yelp, right? Sometimes they're just like, they're anticipating that it's going to hurt, but it hasn't hurt yet, right? So they know you're going to hurt them, and they're like, stop it, stop it, stop it. And you just don't necessarily know that that's what they're trying to communicate. So in that case, it was bring your dog to the vet. So if you have an issue where you don't know why your dog is suddenly growling at you, going to the vet is generally a very solid choice. Just go, make sure that the vet has a good look over the dog. Is something sore? Is something pulling? Is something stretching? Is something anything? You just want to make sure that you're not touching the dog and causing him pain, or that sometimes a dog will have pain because something's wrong and they'll blame it on you because they don't have enough of a concept of it. So dogs can transfer them to other objects. So that's why if like two dogs are right there and something gets scary, sometimes the one dog attacks the other dog and it causes a fight between the two of them because they're just all, they get all hyped up and they don't think straight. Like most of us, right? Dogs are just much easier to get into that state of mind. One of my favorite clients ever, she had one of my puppies, and I can't remember how old Daisy was, but, oh, I gave away her name, but, you know, try to protect the guilty. But Daisy, there's a lot of Daisies, right? So it'll be, I have a Daisy too. So Daisy was picking up mulch outside because for some reason they like to eat mulch. I don't know why. They do though. Like, it's just a dog thing. So she was not only picking up the mulch, but she was bringing the mulch in the house. And one day Mom tried to take the mulch away from her and she wasn't having it. She growled. And Mom was shocked. I mean, this is her baby. She does everything for this dog. So, you know, it's normal to sort of be like, what the heck? Like, oh, you ingrate. You know, what the heck? You're supposed to love me. What are you growling at me for? It might even hurt your feelings a little bit. And that's normal. But the dog was just like, look, I really like this mulch. The dog doesn't understand that you don't want the mulch in the house. The dog just thinks you're taking their thing. This is my treasure, and you're just taking it from me. In that particular situation, the short-term fix was to not let her in the house until she dropped it. But the dog knew drop it, and she was choosing to ignore it. And it didn't take very long for that dog to go, you know what? I'm more motivated to go in the house than I am to carry the mulch. And she did put it down and come in the house. And that worked. And then more training, of course, down the line fixed the problem overall. But you need a short-term fix just for those moments. So if you've got a dog and he raids the trash and he's gotten into something and he is really excited, or you've got a dog and he picked up a shoe and you're going to get it back from him for the millionth time and he growls at you and you're like, what the heck? It can scare you. It might be very frightening. Remember, a growl is supposed to be as scary as possible. And if it's a bigger dog, like, that's terrifying. You don't think of it as being such a dangerous animal. But if a dog really wants to be dangerous, he can be. It's just most of the time they really aren't. But the moment you kind of remember, like, oh yeah, this thing has a lot of teeth and a pretty darn scary bite force pressure. Like, I really don't want to mess with that. And it's kind of shocking. There are some things that you can do that kind of prevent this from happening in the first place. So I'm going to start there. The first thing that you want to do is stop snatching things out of your dog's mouth. This is best if you start when they're a puppy. Obviously, if you're watching this now, that might not help you. But I am going to go through it because I want you to start doing it. You're going to start doing it right now. The dogs snatch things all the time. They have no impulse control. They see something, they like it, they grab it. You've got to teach impulse control. You've got to teach your dog to think through things before they do it. Otherwise, they're going to do it, and then they have a choice to either drop it or double down and growl. And they don't always make wise decisions. So, you know, like all of us, you want to help them think through things. So we can do training exercises to teach impulse control. When they do grab something, people just chase them down. They chase them down and wrestle it out. Chase them down and wrestle it out. What happens is that the dog just learns to run from you. That's it. They just learn that whenever they have something awesome, you also think it's awesome and you take it from them because you're a bully. That's it. That is what they think. They do not think that they've snatched your shoe and that they're being a jerk and that you're doing the rightful thing and getting the shoe back. They think, oh my gosh, a shoe, this is amazing. And they grab it and then, oh man, everybody likes the shoe. Man, she always wins. She's always so much bigger than me. She always wins the shoe. And one day he might be like, you know what? I'm fighting back. This is my shoe and I'm sick and tired of you taking it from me. Right? That's really what the dog, in the dog's mind, he's going to fight for the shoe if it's that valuable to him. The problem is the more you chase after an animal to take something from them, the more in their little brain that object becomes valuable. It's just a weird animal thing. But the more you go after them and snatch something, the more they're like, ooh, this is good, everybody wants it, right? Then the more they are gonna fight with you. And just like a toddler, if you chase them and you're like, give me that back, they will run and sometimes they'll just throw it away from themselves and kind of keep going. Dogs will often do that too. They will often run and then they drop it and then they go. And the problem is that's because they're scared. They think that you're gonna fight with them. And so they're running and then finally they drop it so that you'll stop chasing them. And they run off and your dog is afraid. And it's really not, you don't want your dog to be afraid of you most of the time. Like every now and then you might have to lay down the law, but it's not something that you want to be a really consistent thing. And puppies snatch things constantly. I mean, it's a daily thing. And so if every single day the puppy is impulse snatching something, being scared, impulse snatching something, being scared, they're going to start having an automatic fear response, like Pavlov's dogs. Every time they snatch something, they're going to feel anxious. Just without you even being near them, they're going to feel anxious. And this is going to cause them to do crazy things. Anytime I get a phone call from someone who says, my dog keeps snatching things and swallowing them whole, and we've had 2 surgeries now, and, you know, big old Labrador, and he's swallowing socks, and I don't know what to do. The reason that the dog is doing that is because he's spent a lifetime of having his stuff snatched away. And so he's learned to swallow it as fast as he can. Because that's it. If you don't swallow it now, you're never going to get it. And other dogs will sneak things under beds. And you'll find, like, my dog is hiding and destroying things. What the heck? And that is because they are being sneaky. You're just teaching your dog to be sneakier, faster, and more dangerous. They're just going to fight with you more. So stop doing that. Do not chase the dog. Ever. Don't do it. It's not worth it. The only time that you should chase down a dog and forcibly take something from them is if what they have is truly dangerous. If the dog has something that you know is toxic or is sharp and dangerous or something like that, then by all means you chase that dog down and you take it away from them. And so be it, you know. But if that happens, it's going to be a once in a lifetime kind of thing. It's not something, I don't think I've ever had that happen before. And I've been around dogs for a really long time. I can't think of any time that a dog's ever actually gotten something, but it happens. Otherwise, if it's a shoe or something, if there's something that precious that your dog could get, please don't put it on the floor where the dog can reach it. I know we all make that mistake, but, you know, don't put like your really fancy new pair of heels on the ground around a dog that you know likes shoes, because that's just setting him up for failure. And hopefully let's minimize how much temptation there is for the dog, because he's just going to see it, he likes it, he grabs it, and now there's a fight. A lot of people still have the dominance theory thing. It's very, very old, that you have to dominate your dog. Get that out of your head. That is not true. Dogs' social structures are just like human families. So a dog being in your family, the way that you relate to your dog is exactly how you should relate to your child. If you wouldn't, you know, hover over your child and scream at them. If you hover over your child and you scream at them, stop it. That's not cool. Okay? I mean, that should not be a thing that happens often. But same thing with your dog, right? Like, every now and then you gotta lay down the law. But, you know, screaming, yelling, snatching things from them, hitting them, spraying them in the face with things, that is not, don't do it. All you are doing is teaching your dog that you're a bully. You're just teaching your dog that you are not to be trusted. You are not safe, you are not trustworthy, and he may not even have any idea why you're doing it. And if it's because he snatched something and you're beating the heck out of him to get it back, he's not thinking, I shouldn't have done that. That is not going through his head. So it does have a tendency to progress. And the anxiety just builds and builds and builds, and you start getting this serious reaction. And somebody's going to get bitten. And that's not good. Now, sometimes people will notice that they get success if they intimidate the dog. Again, this usually stops working. Slowly, like progressively, the dog starts calling your bluff. But initially you might be like, you give me that, and you're scary, and the dog's like, all right, I'm not going to fight you. The problem with dominating a dog like that, that's not dominance. It's just all you're doing is scaring the dog. You're basically just saying, I'll fight you for that. And the dog's like, wow, you're like 130 pounds. I'm not fighting you. The problem is that next time a dog has something he really likes and a human being is around him, he is going to be filled with anxiety. He is going to believe that if he has anything he treasures, that someone is there to take it away. You have now put that in the dog's mind. So what happens is you give the dog a chew bone, and he's laying there chewing on his bone, and somebody's over at your house and their kid's there, and the kid walks over to the dog and reaches down to like pat the dog on the head or kiss the dog, this happens all the time. And now the dog is like this. The kid doesn't notice because he doesn't read dog body language. And the dog's like, I have a thing, and they're going to take my thing. That person's going to fight me for that thing. And then the dog is going to size up that kid and go, I can take him. And that's what's going to happen. And he will. And he'll bite him. So, I mean, you really don't want to put your dog in a place where he is feeling anxious every time he has something that he really likes. To take away everything that he really likes. And I mean it. Do not give him a bone. Do not give him favorite chew treats. No toys. Take them all away, because you are not going to set him up for failure. You give him that, and there's a chance that every time he's got it, he's going to feel anxious, and you're starting the pattern all over again. Just take it all away. He's going to get them back. Take them all away. Start with a blank slate. We are going to re-teach the dog. We're going to teach the dog that every time he sees a person, when he has something valuable, that he should feel neutral or positive. Not that he should feel anxious and like, they're going to take my stuff. You don't want him to be feeling that way. You don't want his freaking kibble, you know? He doesn't know the difference between you wanting your shoe back and you wanting his kibble. So one of the very first things that you want to figure out is what the heck to do when the dog is actually guarding something. And that is really tricky. And then we want to avoid those situations from happening again. So close down your stuff, put away your shoes, take all of the dog's toys off the floor. They should not be any dog's toys on the floor. No treats on the floor, no bones on the floor, nothing. So you've taken everything fun from the dog. So obviously you're going to give him stuff during the day. Everything that you give that dog, it comes from you. Don't like toss toys all over the place. What's happening is the dog's walking around and he's going, oh, look, a toy, and he picks it up and he plays with it, right? You don't want your dog to just find things and pick them up and have fun. You kind of want to get that habit out of the dog. The dog shouldn't be finding treasures and playing with them. Because then your shoe is just a treasure he found. It's no different than that fuzzy octopus he just found. He doesn't know the difference. He just knows, hey, I like that. It smells like feet. Dogs like feet. I don't know why, but they do. So everything you should be giving your dog. And you can say, take it. When you're handing it to them, take it. And then they'll take it, right? And they'll actually learn take it. And then after a while, you teach give it. And you can actually teach them that at a training session with their food. You know, you just say take it and they'll take it, and then you put your hand on it. The dog's likely to let it go, especially if you've got food. If they don't let it go, you get a really good treat and you show it to them, and they'll switch. They'll let go of the one thing and grab onto the treat. And now you just do that over and over again. The dog is going to learn take it and give. Take it and give it. That's really, really useful. You really want to teach your dog that when they let go of something, they get something awesome. That is pairing in their mind that when they let go of something, they get something really good. Okay, so that's what you're trying to teach them. If you're really worried that the growling is going to be a big deal, do not give him something that he really loves. Okay? You want it to be something that he wants, so he's going to be playing with it, but you don't want it to be something so high value that he's going to growl at you. It's the same issue when Dog starts growling whenever my daughter sits on the couch next to the dog. I don't understand. Or my dog's hanging out and he's just laying there relaxing, but when my son walks by, he growls. What's going on? What's going on is that your kid is doing something really annoying to the dog, and your kid probably has no idea. So a lot of us sit down on the couch and we don't even think twice about it and we move the dog off. So the dog is sitting there all comfortable. You walk over and sit down and he gets shoved off. He gets moved out of the way. Or maybe she's just snuggling him overly, like too much, petting him, and he just kind of wants to be left alone. And so what's happening is as soon as she sits down, he's having an immediate negative association. She may not even be doing anything yet, and he's waiting for it. And then she might reach over just to pat him, and he might snap at her, even bite her. That is not uncommon. So in a situation like that, you can't let the dog on the couch anymore until you do some of this stuff and work with some of this stuff. But you have to teach a positive association and destroy the negative associations, and that takes time. And it takes careful interactions. You have to make sure that every interaction is positive. So that's why you can't let the dog do the thing that they are guarding. Whatever it is that they love, 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 you have to make sure that the only time they have it is under very strict circumstances, and you are right there and you're using that moment for teaching. So again, you're going to give the dog treats. Now, if you're able, and you have to be safe and careful, if you're able to walk right up to your dog while he's chewing on a treat or a toy, and maybe you don't have any problems with that, it's just when he steals stuff, that's fine. You're still going to do this because it's still going to continue to teach the dog. Hand him that treat that's really, really good and walk away. So essentially, he's having a reaction. Hopefully it's neutral initially. If it's negative initially, you've got to be a lot faster. You have to know, and if you've got a serious issue where you actually think your dog is going to bite you, like you really are legitimately scared that the dog is going to bite you, don't do this alone. You need to get somebody in the house with you. You know, that would be time to get somebody that knows what they're doing. You know, hire a dog trainer, hire a dog behaviorist, get somebody experienced, because you do not want to get bitten. So that goes without saying for all of this. If you are legitimately afraid, you think your dog is not bluffing, you think he means it, do not do this. It's not worth it. But a lot of the times, if dog is super friendly and happy and nice all the rest of the time, they're bluffing. They don't really want to bite you. They will eventually if this continues. You're going to change the dog's mind. Because right now the dog picks up a thing and he's just overcome with anxiety and fear and wanting to fight for it. And we are going to change that mindset. And then the other thing that you need to do with the dog that's already in this issue is you have got to not let the dog get anything in the first place. I mean, you have just got to not let it happen, because every time it happens, you have a fight on your hands. You do. You're going to fight. You've now got an issue because you're going to have to go over to him. You may not get him to come over to you. So if this is like it's just happened a couple of times, start doing the trade game. Start getting stuff picked up, and it won't be very long before your dog is looking forward to you walking over. I mean, a couple days. And you can just do it a ton the first day, especially if this is a dog that is now growled. And take some time. Don't go on a weekend. Spend the whole day. Do not give your dog any food in a bowl that day. No food for free. Get all of that dog's kibble for the day, or their food, whatever their food's going to be. Put it up on the counter, the whole amount that you know they're going to need, and spend the entire day giving the dog food. Have the kids just have a food. If the dog's over there, he's just hanging out over there. Just have somebody walk over and give him the food for absolutely no reason. Every time somebody walks up to him, you want him to feel positive. Every time somebody walks over, he should get excited and happy and not feel stressed. Don't mess with him. Everybody needs to not mess with him, because a dog that is finally starting to growl is kind of like at his wit's end, right? This is Michael Douglas in that movie about LA. I can't remember it, but like he's snapped, right? The dog is just, that's it. He's had it. He's got crazy hair. He's just like, I can't take it anymore. All right. You have no idea that the dog was getting this frustrated, and don't kick yourself for it. You know, you don't speak dog, and it's really common. This happens a lot, especially with first-time dog owners. especially with first-time dog owners that have kids that really love the dog because they want to interact with the dog a lot, and then they don't necessarily notice that while they're interacting with the dog, they're actually scaring the dog or just annoying the dog. I mean, I've seen kids, they pet the dog up the wrong way, and they have no idea that the dog is just like, I really don't like that, right? But if you've got a really good dog and he's really tolerant, he's not even complaining until he's like a year old or a year and a half old. That is a dog that is so tolerant. Like, that dog deserves all the pieces of hot dogs and cheeses and pieces of bacon, because that's a dog that has been putting up with stuff he doesn't like for a long time because he's tolerant. And patience and tolerance should be rewarded. The only problem is a lot of times we don't notice that they're doing it. And they're just getting more and more frustrated and more irritated. And finally one day they're like, that's it. Don't mess with me. I mean it. Just stay away from me. I don't even want you walking up to me when I'm resting because it is stressing me out. I don't want to have to deal with it right now. So stay back. And that's what happens when, the kid walks over the dog and he's resting and he growls. Never chase him. Never chase him. Never corner him. Never do those things. You will make it worse. I've broken this up into a bunch of little things so that you don't have to try to digest it all at once if you don't want to. So there will be other videos, and I will see you in another video.